Okay. I just,
Yeah, it's very nice, really nice. It's the behind cage.
that's somebody. Bobby, that's the water bottle.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Before we have that motion, there are a significant number of people signed up to speak on the Silver Pride agenda item. We don't have a public hearing on that, so their comments would need to occur in the public comment section. If the board wants to, the board could add a public hearing on the new business agenda and hear those comments right before the board discussion, if they would rather do that.
As opposed to hearing them.
Public comments at the beginning.
My vote would be public comments at the beginning. No separate time.
Okay, all
I go like that.
right, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
Unless we approve the agenda.
Okay, any more discussion? None, all those in favor?
Your microphone's up, please. So
Motion to approve the agenda.
All those in favor? Raise your hand. Yes, not opposed? Agenda is approved as presented. I approve. Okay, consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda that was in your packet.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Any discussion or questions on the consent agenda? Fine. And all those in favor, raise your hand. Let's say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, consent agenda passes. Okay, now we have public comments. When you are ready to give your public comments, I'm going to call you in the order that you're on here. We'll bring the podium in and people can come to the podium, speak. Public comments is for anything that does not have a public hearing. So you can speak on multiple things, but if one of them is the public hearing, your comments for that will go during the public hearings portion. Public hearings on 2 zoning map amendments and a road closure. And then those are the 3. Yep. So if your comments are on that, we'll call you during the public hearing. Otherwise, it'd be a public comments.
David,
Yeah.
can you clarify that the street closure is for Pathfinder Lane?
Yep. Street closure for Pathfinder Lane has a public hearing. Is that the second sheet?
Yes, nobody signed up to speak.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go down the list. Take McCardle first. Ray,
Should I come up there?
come up to the podium, please. You have 5 minutes. And we'll start the timer when you begin.
Those who don't know me, my name is Mick McCardle and I own Lulu's Restaurant downtown. I also own the building where it's located. I'm not really here to discuss the merits of any topic of a parade or any issue that might become up because of what the parade represents. What my issue is the closure of the street for business purposes. And every time we have an event, we continue to grow. Downtown merchants, especially on Main Street, suffer greatly. Not just during the event, but prior and afterwards because of the need to close down the street, the issues involved with closing down the street, burden on the police department, parking issues, et cetera. And it seems that the number of things that are happening downtown are growing. And I support that, but there's a point when we have to look at it and say, do we have a downtown merchant situation where business is conducted on a routine basis? Or are we a parade route or a special events coordinator? And my topic would be, there has to be a limit to the time that we close downtown because it definitely affects the commerce. And when I say that, I can tell you that anytime we do anything of any nature downtown, it probably cost me alone $1,500 to $2,000 worth of business during that time frame. And I'd like to have everybody recognize it's not business we can make up because they're not 366 days in a year or 53 weeks. So it just, when you're making the decision that you make, in my opinion, it has nothing to do with the merits of what is happening. It has to do with closing the street and the effects that it has on merchants. Thanks for your time.
Do you want to speak on anything else? I just kind of cross you up.
I'm good.
That's it. Departments, next will be Luther Jones.
According to the Silver Herald, I believe that there's been a proposal to expand the position of the Main Street Coordinator to a full-time development director for the town. Is that correct? I oppose that. I'll tell you why I oppose it. Well, let's put it this way. The salary that was stated is $50,000 a year. Person is currently making $20,000 a year as a part-time. Part-time, there are no benefits included. You get $50,000 a year. We're talking about health insurance of $13,828, retirement benefits of $6,445, FICA of $38.25, 401k at the end of the year of $2,500 for a total of $76,598 per year is what this person's going to cost us. Now, I understand the need for a development director. What I object to is the fact that we're using taxpayer money to pay for this, especially considering that in the past, it has been primarily for the development of downtown and not the outside businesses in the region. I do realize that the expansion into the economic development director takes in some of these concerns. It's supposed to take in the other businesses instead of just the downtown business, which is what it's been in the past. But let's face it, we're going to be talking about it's still going to be mainly downtown businesses. We have already twice spent taxpayer money from the taxpayers in general of this town for the benefit of individual businesses. One of them was the development of the social district. Social district cost the town to set up signs and to maintain it. Okay, that was done basically for the benefit of very few individual businesses here in town. The second one is if it was paying a part-time development director $20,000 for the past year, that was a Main Street coordinator. That is actually the type of their job. So I don't live on Main Street. I do business on Main Street sometimes, yes, but I don't live there. Why is it that I pay for Main Street? And why would I also be paid for a development coordinator for the town? But that should be being paid for by the businesses and the owners of the properties those businesses are in. It ought to be done by a merchant association, not by the taxpayers. I disagree with the idea of raising our taxes a second time in 2 years, 3 years, maybe 4 last that the taxes rose. To do this. I also question, I have been understand beyond that. I have no concerns as far as the ethics of any member of the board. Optics of it are not real good. We have the lady down here on the end has a business on Main Street. The gentleman next to her owns property on Main Street. This gentleman wants a business that is here in town. The person who is not here today, her parents own businesses on Main Street. And somehow we're paying taxpayer money that's coming out of the pocket of people that are not in the town limit, I mean, in the Main Street part of town to develop these businesses. I simply got to that. I oppose it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Luther. Anything else you want to speak on tonight, or can I cross you up to this? Luther,
What?
are you going to speak on anything else tonight?
No, that's it.
David Gim, I see you have on your street closure. Is that the Pathfinder Lane or the Pride?
No, that's Pathfinder.
All right, we're gonna hold on. Fine, Chris Tabor.
Good evening. I am going to speak for the closure of Main Street to facilitate the Pride event for two basic reasons. One, it's the area where we're most likely to encounter protesters. So police presence in that area with the street closed, much better safety wise. And the second reason is, gosh, I forgot the second reason. Well, I wanted to address really quickly about the business closures. Obviously, I go to Whiteview right before I hit up the parade. I think a lot of the breweries, the pizza places, all of them are gonna do better, but I certainly, businesses are gonna do worse. And, so if I think of the second reason, I'll email you. Thanks.
Chris. Here.
Before I start, sorry to go out of turn a little bit, but because of a scheduling conflict, I was told that I could do two topics at once, even though one is supposed to come up during the public hearing later. Sorry.
Yes, same amount of time, but 5 minutes.
Yeah, you'd be done in 3. Hi, my name is Garrett Craig. I'm a Silver resident. I'm going to speak on a couple topics tonight. First, I want to express support for the proposed zoning change. Affordable housing is a critical need in our community. The planned development seems a clear step forward. I urge you not only to approve this zoning change, but also to work with the developers to ensure that this project actually meets its stated goal of providing housing for folks earning less than 60% of Jackson County's median income. Workforce housing can promote continuity and quality among critical people like school teachers who serve our community in roles that are underappreciated and underpaid. It can help us become a more diverse and inclusive place, as well as to build a more permanent backbone on top of transient populations like students and tourists. With the 107 project looming, housing located between Solva and Dillsboro could alleviate some traffic at an important time by reducing commute distances for 48 families. And finally, I visited the site in question and can see it. The buildings themselves won't be obtrusive visually. So location honestly seems ready-made to me and screaming for affordable housing. And I think we should be celebrating that. Now shifting gears, I want to emphasize how proud I am of how our community rallies routinely around joy and inclusivity. Specifically, I believe Pride is an important event, and it thrills me that it can be so successful and safe in a small town like ours. In a time when LGBTQ folks still face discrimination and violence in many parts of the country, I believe it's as important as ever for us to stand up and show support. However, it may be empowered to do so. I hope that the town board continues to demonstrate that we're a community that unabashedly values diversity, equality, and respect. As far as the future of the Pride event goes, I would personally be very disappointed if the parade were unable to continue. I want Pride to visibly grow and thrive. However, I understand there's logistical and financial concerns around defining that process. In my opinion, rather than take on what could be a potentially contentious issue of sponsorship, that word in particular, the town should establish an application process regarding event approval, and then facilitation on top of that. That application should clearly define criteria for any organization that desires a road closure or other event support, whether it's security or anything else beyond the simple use of Bridge Park. All of these criteria would obviously be subject to the judgment of the board, but it's a democratically elected board that I feel represents our town well. And with that in mind, I would suggest at a minimum, the following criteria be considered before an event like that receives town support. Number one, it should be run by a local organization that's based in Jackson County. Number two, I would like to see it be organizations that have an established history of supporting the community in some way. Three, I think the organizations as well as the events themselves should be apolitical, however that may be defined. I understand there's some subjectivity there, but generally I think they should not be
ideological in nature or based on a candidate or a campaign. Fourth, events should be open and accessible to any person who's not clearly an agitator. And finally, events should be age appropriate for everyone who comes into town. So I just hope that by defining clearly a fair process that's accessible for other groups besides Pride, that hopefully Pride can remain safe and positive celebration for many years to come. Thank you for your time.
Okay, Jennifer Hart.
I'm actually, I think I'm good on the Pride, so I'm gonna wait for the housing. That's okay.
Okay, yep.
Thank you.
Down there. Did I miss anybody? Does anybody here want to speak on something that is, we do not have a public hearing? Nope. Okay, we'll move on.
But,
Anybody back there? No, okay. We will close public comments and move on to reports. First is mayor's report. The only thing I have is that I received an invitation from Ed Harwood at the American Legion. And they want someone from the board to attend the Memorial Day observation event, Monday, May 29th at noon, and I can't. I have a meeting, Mary can't. And she has another obligation. Any other board member here able to attend that event? May 29th at noon.
Be out of town, that's actually Memorial Day.
You're our last of.
Working.
I can do it.
You can do it. All right. Thank you very much. You have to give a speech. Yes. Well. Yes. Okay. You can take it back. All right. If you're okay.
That's fine.
It's just a welcome. All right. We'll go to boards. Start there.
Not really a report. I guess it is if you don't drive down to Curve all the time like I do, but it's really nice to see stuff underway there. And thank you to Jake and everybody that's making that happen.
You're welcome. I've got a quick report after Paige's report.
Better than the one I just did. That's it.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. It's been, I ride by there every day on my way to work, and it's so great to see it happening. It took so much work to get it going, and appreciate you all. The town has done to get that finally rolling. That's it.
Good.
No reports, thanks.
I don't have much of a report. I just want to say it's really nice to see a room full of people involved in helping make decisions for the town. And so I just want to thank everyone that's here tonight. I hope to see you guys back at future meetings as well. And so this is so important, whether we all agree in this room or not, it's important to have our voices heard and to have these conversations and help make decisions. So thank you all for coming tonight.
That's it. Close commissioner reports, manager reports.
Yes, and I wanted to point out that Commissioner Galba had a death in her family and they had a visitation tonight, so she wanted us to express her apologies for not being able to attend the meeting. Sergeant Robbie Carter is back there. He has been promoted to lieutenant. He was previously in this role at Western Carolina, and he'll do a great job, so we'd like to congratulate him on this promotion. Amy Wisnett from the League came on Tuesday to do a safety walkthrough of town buildings following our OSHA inspection. This was very helpful for each department. We're currently working on the TDA grant application for the Bridge Park Green Infrastructure Project, and we want to thank the Southwestern Commission who's agreed to help us submit that. It's due the beginning of June. And please remember that Alan Brown needs to be replaced on the planning board after May's meeting. His family is being relocated to Asheville. So we have the applications on the website. And if you all know someone who's interested, we're happy to email them, talk to them to answer questions, but we want to get several applications in for this position. This morning, we had our employee wellness fair with the health department. So I want to thank Amanda and Lynn for organizing that. It was required of employees for our new health insurance. Open enrollment is May the 18th at 7:30 for our supplemental health benefits. And a reminder to department heads that our year-end spending deadline is May the 15th. So notify Lynn if there are any non-routine expenditures that are anticipated after that date. And performance evaluations are also due May 15th. May the 26th, I'm attending the WNCMA Managers Budget Roundtable in Asheville, so I'll be out of the office. And tomorrow morning, Jake and I are attending a school government class in Asheville, leadership and workplace climate. And our May the 25th meeting reminder that meeting is at 5:30 instead of 9 a.m. because we have the public hearing on the budget. So if you all don't have any questions, Jake will give us a quick update on Allen Street.
Just a quick question. What's the latest on the railroad bathrooms? Can you on that one?
Yes, architects and civil engineer, mechanical engineer still working on plans. They're close to 90%.
Okay,
So we'll have a meeting and then we'll go through the process.
cool, thanks.
Any other questions?
Yeah, quick update on Allen Street. If you're not out there every day, like some of them are. On May 1st, Worcester and Cherokee Enterprise, who's an excavating contractor, mobilized their equipment out there. You probably saw the super silt fence as part of our DEQ erosion control program. It is installed down slope of the entire project area now. Tree removal and brush grubbing and rough excavation have begun and will be ongoing through the remainder of the project. Worcester has completed the installation of the soil nails and Teco nets on the northwestern extent of the site. That one's on the right part. This is to reinforce the prefab retaining wall right above the playground. Jackson Paper has agreed to allow equipment and material staging at their Herald Street lot and at their pulp entrance. We appreciate the cooperation. That was good of a concern. There's gonna be a lot of equipment and materials to bring in. That's the update, unless you guys have specific questions.
What's the timeline?
Still, the contract will be right around 9 months. So there's a lot of weather leeway and stuff
Okay,
built into that.
okay.
But they're currently on schedule, even though right at the beginning, but
It's better beyond than.
I didn't expect us to have the nails of the Teco above the playground in that quick.
Cool. All right, thank you. Unless anyone have any questions? No? Okay. All right, first new business item is the public hearing on the zoning map amendment request from COOP Properties. This is the one on Savannah Drive. Do you typically start these with background information or just jump right into the public hearing?
Do it however you want.
Okay, do people want to hear the background information overview on the project before they give their comments? Yes, okay.
Okay.
I guess we'll do-
Yes, and I'm sorry I'm filling in for John. He had a family emergency and had to be out of town. But you have a staff report, which will be more helpful than me talking about this, but I'll hit the highlights. So this map amendment is to create a general business conditional district on PN 7631661393 to allow for multifamily residential development on Savannah Drive. This is where the board has approved this multifamily housing request 4 times before. It's a different development. The development would have 48 units total that are 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, and the structure would be 2 stories. The property is 6.83 acres, and conditional districts are legislative and site specific. So the board, when you vote on this map amendment, you'll do it along with the consistency statement with the decision that is consistent with the 2040 land use plan. There's a sample included in the agenda packet that the planning board approved on April the 28th. So they unanimously recommended approval. So let me know if you have specific questions, and we also have the developer here.
All right, we're gonna go down the list here. Jonathan Starr, it just says zoning next to it. Speak on there. Okay. Okay. Kathy Connors. Is that right? Affordable apartment?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm the developer.
Oh, you're the developer.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
I'm sorry.
So I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, you have anything you want to say before that? You want to take questions?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Great.
Going on the list here. Okay, affordable housing. Nathan Mann. Okay, and before you start, reminder, you get 3 minutes.
Right. So, for increasing the availability of affordable housing in Scylla, as well as this proposal, again, and I have 2 main points, and if I time myself right, but first of all, housing is a human right, and housing is becoming a problem, major problem nationwide. Supply of affordable housing is shrinking, and people are being increasingly priced out of cities across the country. shelter are minimum basic human needs required for survival. Food and housing crisis sweeping the country are a direct result of a political and economic system where things that people need to survive commoditized, bought and sold, and transacted for profit rather than being viewed as collective resources that need to be managed and distributed equitably so that everyone's needs are met. There are a growing number of individuals and families who lack the sizable and exponentially increasing financial resources necessary to obtain housing, which is a fundamental need for survival and human right. The responsibility of government should be to care for the people. Market and private industry will not and cannot provide for the needs of the people. I ask you to employ whatever means are at your disposal through the position of your office to provide adequate and affordable housing, especially to those who are in desperate need of it. And this rezoning proposal is an important first step in the right direction. 2, the needs of many should be placed above the wants of a few. I realize that some people will not want to see this development project happen. They may cite concerns about the road or traffic or density. They may say they support people having housing, but ask you to put it somewhere else. Commercial business development progresses routinely in this country with very little question or resistance. Many people find business development to be unpleasant, disruptive, and unwanted. I'm not aware of commercial development being so dependent upon having public support or being altered in any way by public opposition. Same complaints regarding traffic are equally applicable to that type of development. Despite the large costs imposed by commercial business development on a large section of the population, it proceeds because of the enormous benefits and profits that it brings to a small few. I respect that people have preferences, but those preferences also represent wants. Housing is a need and one that is affecting an increasing number of people. The needs of many should be prioritized over the wants of a few. People who already have housing should not be able to dictate that others should not have those same human needs met because it is inconvenient or unpleasant to them. I would argue that a single multi-unit structure would provide substantially less congestion than trying to build and incorporate 50 new single-family homes in town. The proposed location is already available and ready. Savannah Drive is rough, and it's going to have problems regardless of whether this is built or not. Successful commercial and economic development in town that's already happening, and the transformation that we're already seeing is going to bring increasing traffic, congestion, and noise to town, regardless of whether those people live here or are visiting businesses and services here. The project should not be held up because of concerns about the road. If the road is a problem, then it should be fixed, and that is a separate issue. And perfect. That's it.
Thank you, Bob. It's very shut.
Yeah.
Hello, neighbors. That's me. I'm a neighbor. And this new housing is going, first of all, let me just say, I have a medical condition and I might not be very good at pronunciation and all that. So just bear with me. And I may bring up things that my husband, who is also on the list to talk, will also say, but that's okay because he's going to be more clear about it than I am. All right, so I just wanted to make sure that we can be able to have an open discussion about your plans, like with us, the neighbors, and I want to make sure that we can talk and like you can give me a more specific drawing of like your renderings and your blueprints, like as far as where things are going to go, because I live at the very top of the hill, and I know some of you probably hadn't even walked back there, but at the this is going to be at the bottom of the hill, and it's a very steep hill. And we have trees there, which I enjoy for mainly erosion control. So I'm concerned about erosion, and I have a very small backyard. So if that starts, I mean, if those trees are gone, then my backyard is gone. And then it's all the way to the house. I mean, my house is going to be falling off of a cliff. Okay, so like, it's not that I'm angry or anything, it's just a concern. Also, I want to know about like, how tall is it going to be? Because they'll be looking in my windows and I'll be looking in their windows. And I also want to know like, how tall the street lights are going to be. I mean, are the street lights going to be like blinding me and when I'm in my window? So I want to know about that and the fire safety, like if there's going to be grills, I just want to make sure because like I have a little fire pit, but I don't burn anything when there's a burn ban. Cause I don't want to start my whole neighborhood on fire. So like, I just want to make sure that there's something in, that's going to be controlled with the fire rings or whatever it is that you're putting there for cooking. And so like, I just hope that we can keep an open and then, I can see more than just this picture because I know it's gonna be more detailed than that. That's all I got. Thank you.
Brett?
I don't know what I'm gonna say because she said everything. No, I'm just, our parcel sits up above where it is. It's about a 30-foot drop down from our backyard. Now, looking at the schematic that was in last week's paper, you had a retaining wall going along the pole arms, but then stopping along the backside. So I don't know if you folks had plans to put up a retaining wall on that part of it or what, because there's two different elevations to that property. There's my parcel 30 feet down, you got another area, and then lower than that, assuming is where the apartments are gonna go. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, it's multi-tiered, as you've said, and I'll hopefully take some of your concerns off the table.
Okay.
So this is very preliminary.
Do this wrong.
Yeah,
Or your 30 minutes is gonna go.
Okay.
Okay. So I need to be quiet.
And you can address this.
Just tell me, be quiet, and then tell me what I thought.
But yeah, we have concerns about the lighting, fire safety, what we're gonna do with that hill back there, and that's basically it. I need to forward everybody else with my person. That's all we had to concern, affordable housing, great, fine with that. We'll cry over again.
All valid concerns, and I will talk to you about this.
All right, Jennifer, you want to speak on it?
Just to start talking. Hi, Jennifer Hart. I'm here for Cornbread and Roses. Before I start, I want to thank some folks here. Jake, thank you. David, thank you, Natalie. Thank you to town. So I am talking about Savannah Drive. I am across from, I own the property across from this. And specifically, I'm really happy that you're a woman, so I'm just going to say that. Thank you. This is beautiful, and I want it to be double the size. Personally, I wish we could have more housing, and I'm really excited for this and hope that we can work together to make it work for the erosion as well. I understand because I am across the street, and so I'm just voicing my opinion that we really need affordable housing. The number one thing that we see is housing besides transportation and food insecurity. This would be huge for Jackson County to have something that's in this location. We have the area around it. It's a really good spot for it, honestly. And so I would just love to talk with you and learn more. And if we could work together on making sidewalks.
You're here.
I hear you.
So Kathy, we'll let you speak during the board discussion.
Okay.
You can give information and answer the questions there, so you won't be limited by the 3 minutes.
Okay.
Anybody else who I skipped on this list or that wants to speak during this public hearing on this housing development? One wants to go twice.
David, just a small question, not understanding, of course, that, it's a housing development, it's in Section 8, so it's got to be funded. What does that mean? Like if the town says, okay, yes, we need it on it, then does it go through a procedure of how do they pay for it? Like, is that like something beyond all this? Like, how does this work? Because I'm just asking.
Okay. So first of all, just procedure wise, during the public hearings, the board shouldn't take questions and give answers, because it's the time for the board to listen to people. But we hear your question and we'll address that during the board discussion and we'll answer that. Yep, great question. It's a very good question. Yep. Any more things like that want to be said or asked? Address them during the board discussion? No? Okay, so we'll need a motion to close the public hearing then.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second on that. Done, and all those in favor? Okay, public hearing is closed. So now we have board discussion on the zoning map amendment request. And I think it'd be appropriate, Kathy, if you want to start that, you can address people's questions, and that's obviously the questions we have as well.
Hello, everyone. My name's Kathy Connors, and my company is Solstice Partners. And I partner with, my partner is Danny Ellis out of Charlotte. We both have a lot of experience. This is my 26th year developing affordable housing, and Danny's 37th. So we've done projects all throughout the Southeast. We are very proud of these buildings. They have won awards from the city of Raleigh, from NCHFA. And we're excited to be here. I'll give you a little bit of a background about the process. Somebody brought up the process, and it's a very competitive process. Federal tax credits are awarded down from the federal government to the state agency, and they allocate those federal tax credits out. They are very competitive. So what that means is for every 5 applications that get submitted to the agency, 1 gets an award. And so what they do is they have a qualified allocation plan, which is a document that describes each year how these credits will be awarded out to developers and to towns. And because there are 100 counties in North Carolina, a lot of the bigger metro counties get most of the federal tax credits. So it's harder for smaller rural places like Silva to get an award. As Paige said, this is I guess the 5th time up for this site. Developers are clearly know that there's a need here. The state knows there's a need. In fact, the tiebreaker this year, and it changes every year, but the tiebreaker this year actually listed all 100 counties in order, and number 1 down to 100, and by need. And Jackson came in 9th out of 100. So there is a huge need here. That's what drove us here. So we're very hopeful that it will come to fruition. I know the needs here. We know that. And that's why we're here. It's competitive, and we're going to do everything we can. To address some of the concerns, again, this is very early on. We submit a full tax credit application. I will submit it tomorrow by noon is the deadline. And what we have to submit is a preliminary site plan. And so we have an engineer that looks at the layout of the land and puts together what makes the most sense. Right off, kind of off the cuff. But we do not pay for a full engineered set of plans until we know we're going to be competitive, and we're going to get an award, actually. And we'll find out in August, just so you know. So if that happens in August, then we'll turn our engineers loose. They'll design a whole site plan. And that's when I will get in contact with you guys, because I would love to sit down and with, our engineers and take, even if they're not with us, I can take those concerns to them, and I will from tonight. But it will be, we can make it a process where you guys can, see what we're designing, and we can answer any questions or concerns that you've got. The erosion control is going to be a huge one. It's not only from our concern, but from the state's concern, from the county's concern. I can assure you that will be addressed. The lighting is also professionally designed, and it is designed for that reason, so that neighbors are not getting blinded, as well as residents in the apartments. So a lighting design plan will be engineered and take into account everyone around us. So I don't think that will be a concern for you. Now, the grills, we will have a grilling area, very nice, with picnic tables and grills. They will be, metal. You can't have them in the apartments, but there will be a steel cemented into the ground. And, the management company will have to manage, when, if there's like a wind advisory or that kind of thing, when you can grill, but we've not had any problems. So I don't think that'll be a concern, either. We are big sidewalks. People too. We want to, this close to downtown, we want to provide sidewalks, so we will absolutely do our part, to install sidewalks in the plan. I can't think of anything else unless you guys have any more questions or hit me up. You spoke about that.
Understand, because I know that the funding is so difficult, and like 5 times.
5 times, yeah. And it's heartbreaking, really, because, I'll go into towns and people so desperately want it and need it and just can't get it. So we're here battling for you. I think what's important is that this is workforce housing. You've mentioned Section 8, and this is really not a Section 8 project. It's really workforce housing is more for middle income folks, teachers and police officers and firefighters and that kind of thing. So folks that will live here, have jobs, and that it's not a Section 8 voucher, but they get up and will have a job just like we all do, and will be responsible for their rent. And so it's just the tax credits infuse equity into the overall financial scheme, and that allows the rents to be lower because there's so much equity paid for the tax credits. And so it's not, I can give you an example of the rents, and so there are 3 different tiers, and I'll start with the lowest, and then there are some in the middle, and then there are some at the 60%. But for a 1-bedroom, at 40% of area median income, we're proposing $460 in rent. For a 2-bedroom, $555, a 3, $635. Right? So folks that, are not spending more than 30% of their income on rent. That's the goal. Is, we don't want, anyone spending more than 30% of their income on housing. So that's what this is for. Now, the higher end of that is $725 for a 1-bedroom, a $875 for a 2, and an $1,005 for a 3. So you can see, the agency, and that's another competitive kind of targeting that they want the developers to do. They want you to hit all, different income levels. So we try to take care of as many people as we can. So because it is such a, it's a hard competitive asset and hard to get. So they try to spread it out.
Is there a money issue like that? You get tax credits, but we're 9, so that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Yes. I think you guys have a great chance. I'm giving it my all. I think you have a great chance this year. So yeah, absolutely. Anything else?
Board have any questions or comments? Yeah, so, thanks again for coming to our town and, hopefully building some housing. Because, this project has come up since I was on the planning board. Appreciate it. And where are we? You said we're 9th. Where have we been in the past? Do we have better odds this year?
You do. You may have been 9th. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that because they've never ranked the counties like this before.
Okay.
It's a new way of ranking them, and but it gives you a better shot because it's a tiebreaker. So what happens is it's very hard and complicated to get these deals done. But to find the site, and why you've seen this site so many times, is it has to be within a mile, or we're in a small town, so 2 miles of a grocery store, a pharmacy, of doctors' offices, of libraries, of they have all different amenities that they want residents to be able to enjoy relatively close. So that's the number one hurdle, is trying to find sites that will get a perfect site score, because if you don't, you're out. You won't be considered. So that's the first thing. And then once so this site scores a perfect score, which is why you've seen it a few times. But the difference this year, and I'm sure, and we're all friendly competitors, I'm sure they're gonna, be bummed that it didn't, if this one pans out this year, it'll be great for all of us and, but the former developers will be sad, but they'll be happy for Silva, and it'll be because of this tiebreaker, because this new tiebreaker says, okay, now everybody's got the same score from the site scores. And so we've got to find a way to let the ones float to the top. And this is the tiebreaker. And so they're now they're going down the list, and the ones that are, further up are going to get an extra point. And so they automatically get, further or float to the top, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to
So the
explain.
tiebreaker is the ranking by need for affordable housing, and we rank number 9.
Right.
Okay, that's what.
Yeah.
So another issue we've had in the past, one is getting the federal tax credit is the big hurdle to get over. But we have had a development that did get approved for the tax credit and it still failed because they didn't anticipate the high cost of, I believe it was just the site prep work, right? And at the time, we didn't have the Dogwood Health Foundation and a number of other foundations. So I'm sure you're aware of that, but they do have funding available in those circumstances. They're gap funding for shortfalls like that. So if there's anything we can do to establish that partnership early on to make sure that you have the resources you need to be successful, getting the tax credit, or even after you do, please engage us early.
Well, I appreciate that. We will.
This is successful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We are very familiar with CDBG, and we'll go after it when we need to. AHP funds, I'm very well aware of Dogwood Foundation. So we will. I hope we're in good shape. With the pandemic and construction costs went sky high and really kind of set us all back, and we're really just kind of starting to settle down. So I hope we're okay on the budget. I'm very conservative and in my budget and try to make sure we have what we need.
And that location was a different location.
Oh, it was.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to imply it was the same. It was also in city limits, but it was different. Much
That's
cheaper-
still heartbreaking.
Much cheaper location, right? And that was.
I didn't know that. Okay. Hmm.
What's
Okay.
the percentage? What's the tax credit percentage? You get it. It's a percentage of the overall total of the project.
Oh, you're talking about financial. So it's usually about the equity that we raise is usually about 75%. So without the tax credit, it can't be done. And that's why it's so competitive. And it's such a great program that everybody needs it, especially now more than ever.
My other question was, you mentioned the manager. Is that a person that lives on the site, at the site, or is that?
That's a case by case basis, and it's a property by property. I mean, if we have a manager that wants a unit, and then we'll absolutely, we will love that from a management standpoint. Typically, they don't live on site. I think they get their doors knocked on too many times. So they decide it's not for them. It's they're either going to work there or they live there, but not both. But we will have a full-time management, a manager on site, as well as I don't know if it'll be a full-time, but at least a part-time maintenance, and at least at the beginning, and then as that grows, we'll. Great question.
It sounded like you used awarded twice. Obviously, they're being awarded the tax credits, which is how the whole deal happened. But in the beginning, maybe you said that your buildings themselves have been awarded.
So, yeah, I'm sorry, that was a little confusing. So we got every year NCHFA actually, it's kind of funny, but they give out awards to developers for their design. And the first project, when I started my company in 2007, and I was determined to make housing not look like affordable housing. And so I completely upset the apple cart with my architect and said, we are going to do something different. I want something that, you know, I'm proud of and that the residents are proud of. And so we came up with design, and our first place that we did it was in Cornelius and in Antiquity. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Cornelius, but it's a very upscale development that the town developed. And then we came in with the affordable housing. It's just knocked it out of the park, and everybody loved the building. So we got an award for that. And that's what I was talking about. And then the city of Raleigh, 4 years ago, it's funny, I was just at a groundbreaking on Tuesday. The city of Raleigh put out 2 RFPs for 100 units and 154 units. And we responded to both RFPs, and we got them, and we were told that it was because of the design. So we're very proud of that. And I hope we're successful, and you guys will be proud of them too. August. August.
Yeah, and then what's the time, say you are approving in August, and then when would you start digging?
So August, we would typically I try to get everything closed. We have a construction lender, you've got an equity provider. So typically March, April of the next year. And then we start right away. Construction is usually 12 months. Depending up here, the weather and that kind of thing, it may be a little bit longer, but we try to knock it out in 12 months. And the market study that we had done for this said that they would run out in 3 months. Wow. I think it'll be faster. Yeah. Honestly, I do.
Sure, okay.
Anything else?
Any other questions, comments? This, no, okay, so we're gonna bundle some things into one motion, so I'll make it. I will entertain a motion to approve the zoning map amendment request by Solstice Partners as presented in your packet, and to adopt the statement of consistency as presented, which finds the proposed amendment to be consistent with the key drivers for the plan for Silva. Driver 2, providing diversity in housing choices and urban neighborhoods.
I'll make that motion.
Is that a suitable motion? Okay. Any discussion on that? All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Opposed, motion carries. And close that agenda item. Cool. We will move on to the next public hearing on zoning map amendment request CJ Properties on Skyland Drive, and same procedure.
This is for a map amendment to change the zoning district of 414 Skyland Drive. That's the Great Smoky Mountains Fitness Center. It's 2 parcels from the general business district to the professional business district. The combined acreage is 13.93 acres. This is not considered spot zoning because the 2040 land use plan shows that this parcel will in the future be zoned as professional business. So it doesn't touch anything professional business, but in the future, that's the plan for it. And the applicants, the Hudaks, want to turn it into a private school for gifted children K-8. I'll pass out what they gave me for the description of the business to give to the board.
Yes.
Oh, and the planning board unanimously recommended the board approve their April 28th meeting.
Let's go ahead and in public hearing then. So on here that hasn't spoken. Anybody want to speak on this one? Signed up that I missed perhaps? Yep. Which was the public hearing then?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Public hearing is closed. or sorry, it's not, we discussion on that.
Oh, yeah.
All those in favor of closing the public hearing? Okay, now it's closed. Okay, so now we'll move on to zoning map amendment request, CJ Properties, the same thing, but for discussion this time. Questions or discussion from the board on this one? Over here. Yes, okay. Anything you want to say?
You'd like me to?
Sure.
You guys have it, but I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page. Good evening. My name is Brianne Hudak, and I am a 16-year veteran of education. I'm a K through 12 school principal, a WCU adjunct professor, and a current doctoral candidate specializing in identifying and meeting the gifted and talented children. My family and I recently moved to Western North Carolina from Charleston, South Carolina. We traded the beach for the mountains. And I feel that Silva is the ideal location for a school of this kind. Its central proximity to numerous towns, the local university, professional and medical offices, and the suburban rural mix can offer families and young professionals increased opportunities, educational opportunities. The property at 414 Skyland Drive is the best fit for building our model. We understand that the property is large at almost 14 acres, but we intend to use the entire property for outdoor learning spaces that include classrooms, an amphitheater, and nature trails, and more. A large driveway that leads up to the building is long enough to accommodate all vehicles for our small population, and we do not anticipate any disruption to the current traffic pattern on or around Skyland Drive. A quick description of the business. Journey School for the Gifted and Talented will be a private brick and mortar school serving 60 K through 8 students at full capacity. This is called a micro school because it's serving just 60 students. The environment is an intentional design that allows students to be appropriately recognized and holistically developed through meaningful connections and relationships with their peers and experts familiar with the nature and needs of this population. At Journey School, exceptional learners create personalized learning plans that meet their unique academic and social emotional needs and evolve with them as they move through their educational journey. These plans provide opportunities for excellence and foster a supportive environment that develops the learner's critical and creative thinking skills. As a K through 8 institution, students will have the opportunity to foster and embrace their gifts and talents, become part of the Journey's family, and make a positive impact on the community and beyond. Journey School for the Gifted and Talented understands that gifted or high potential or high ability learners are unique, creative, and inquisitive individuals that want to feel recognized and properly understood. And when their needs are met, nothing will stop them from becoming successful members of society and inspirational leaders of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. And then before the board votes or discusses this, I would like to disclose that I own a small share of a company that rents on this property. So the sale of this property or the changing of its zoning would not financially benefit me in any way, but just to disclose that to the board. We determined it was not a conflict of interest. So you're buying the property.
Correct.
And that's about 7 students per grade level. Is that they each have a classroom or how's that going?
Yes, there will be 4 classrooms, and it's about a 7.5 to 1 ratio for kid to student. So yeah, they're small classrooms. Yes, questions?
So if the audience wants to ask questions, we would need to open
Oh, yeah.
the hearing back up to do that.
I have a question. So do you guys have any idea what tuition will look like? Or is it scholarship? How does that?
We've looked into the different voucher and scholarship programs here in North Carolina, and once our school gets accredited and certified through the North Carolina Association of Independent Schools, we'll be able to offer that tuition. We're still determining that based on what the vouchers and scholarships and accreditation is.
Do you think it'll be affordable amongst the average family in Jackson County?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you have, so if it goes well, would you have plans to expand it? Is it always gonna be 60? Or could you, expand schools, number of students, I guess?
The capacity will be 60 students.
Oh, okay.
So it's always going to be 60.
Gotcha. All right.
pay grade.
And then how do you identify, I don't, this will only affect, what we're talking about here, but how do you, just out of curiosity, how would you identify gifted students that would qualify for this school?
So I have, like I was saying in my just kind of description, I am going to have my doctorate in educational leadership emphasizing how to properly identify gifted and talented students as well as combat underachievement to help them reach their full potential. So there's, I mean, I could go on, but there's a variety of ways. It's a lot of referrals, recommendations, just kind of talking with the students and getting to know them socially and academically. And then there are assessments that they can take that determine the IQ or their ability level. And we're also just looking for students that are really, again, critical thinkers and creative and inquisitive. So it's going to be a lot of different pieces to the application and enrollment process. But yeah, there's specific rules and procedures we want to do to make sure that we're getting the right people.
Yeah, more like where they, would this be, where would you draw from? I mean, if just people hear about you and apply and say, I want to come in, or is it something where, you have some kind of relationship with the public schools and
it's going to be, it's a completely separate entity, no relation to the public schools. Anybody can apply. And then once they have submitted an application, then we'll work with the family and the learner to go through the process to see if everyone's a good fit.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Thank you.
From the board.
Can I ask a question?
We'll have to reopen the public hearing. Would you like us to reopen the public hearing so you can ask a question? If the board is willing to do that, we can do that.
Yeah, of course.
Is that okay? Yeah.
My question for you is what are,
You might not be able to do that.
what are the,
Maybe we'll do it a second.
It's good.
Need a motion to reopen the public hearing?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, public hearing is reopened. Luther Jones. Take the podium, please.
One quick
Luther,
question.
Luther, please come to the podium.
Just
The mic can't hear you. The mics can't hear you, so you need to come to the podium, ask your question. and then-
I'll real loud.
Okay. No problem.
So what kind of credentials are you looking for in your instructors?
I'm going to offer professional development training to get them to be able to understand the nature and needs of this population. But as far as credentials, certified educators, or if not certified educators, those interested in this population and serving them appropriately that might have specific talents or skills or gifts of their own that could help them find their purpose or find their gift and talent.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Public hearing is still open if someone else wants to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of my questions is working in autism as long as I have. There is a problem when we separate children out and keep them away from inclusion. It's a big thing, right? So I work with adults and we were talking about, I'm not saying that people would have autistic children. What I'm saying is that it's likely, right, that would be a population that you would serve. How are you going, if you keep 60 kids away, how are you going to make sure that inclusion is a part of their work?
So the educational elephant in the room, actually, on the gifted and talented population, if we can talk about it, which I guess we are, is that they are already facing inequities in our traditional school system. They are not recognized, they are not being served appropriately, and they're on the opposite side of the special education spectrum. So whereas students in special ed and certified teachers and professionals and specialists and certified ed get appropriate placement, appropriate training, appropriate support, interventions, etc. The gifted and talented students are not receiving that, and over 50% of this population is underachieving and being put at risk. So the idea for me is I am combating the inequity and bringing them together and allowing them to work together and find peers that are like them and like-minded so that they can, again, find those gifts, unlock their potential, and just see what they can do.
Yeah, that was special ed also is inclusive, right? So there is a part of special ed that allows that inclusion of everyday activities. And my worry is that when we put children and we separate them, we're causing another large issue. So my question to you is, how are you combating that so that you make sure you aren't segregating our children and making it to where there is not inclusion? I'm just wondering if that's.
I'm gonna pause this conversation and let you
Yeah.
finish that thought. So this board, the issue before us is simply a zoning map amendment.
Okay, thank you.
So these are very important questions, and I'm glad you're asking them, and I would encourage you to get into that conversation after the meeting, but I do have to make sure that the discussion stays relevant to the issue before the board. Does anybody have any questions related to the zoning map amendment of this? Hearing, no, okay. So I'll have a motion to close the public hearing. I'm sorry to cut you off. I know it's important.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, all those in favor? All right, public hearing closed again. Back to board discussion. Any more discussion before the vote? No, okay. So give me a second. I gotta flip to the consistency statement. So you need the drivers listed for this one as well. So I will entertain a motion then to approve the zoning map amendment request by CJ Properties and to adopt the statement of consistency also presented in your packet, which cites the following driver, which finds the proposed amendment to be consistent with the plan for Silva corridor specifications and citing specifically the Skyland mixed use corridor. That good with you? Okay. So
I'll motion that. So moved.
okay. All right, any discussion from the board? None, all those in favor? Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None opposed? Right, okay. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to our next public hearing. Closure request, portion of Pathfinder 1.
This request is from the Kincaid family that owns the former Soul Infusion property and the manufactured home park next to it on Pathfinder Lane in Holly Manor Court. They would like to close the unopened portion of Pathfinder Lane that's shown on the map in your agenda packets in red. This portion of the street is reserved on paper, but the actual section of the street that they want to close does not exist. UPS made this request to the board in April 2018 and the board denied it. Time neighbors were opposed to the request. The Kincaid family is now making this request because they'll lose right of way along the frontage of the property during the 107 project. So the map in the agenda shows this in red.
Put on our list here. So with that.
And we have the applicant here also.
Okay. I can't read this person's handwriting here, sorry. Tina? They wrote Kincaid / Pathfinder as their explanation. Okay. What's the name? Sorry. Okay, sorry. I'm very bad at researching English language, yeah, person.
The Kincaids are here with me. Haley Manor is not a road. Virginia Kincaid, her husband, named that road. So no one has a right of way from 107 all the way back. Walter Ash Road, when you at the red light and you cut down Walter Ash, Pathfinder Lane. It goes and then jogs over and goes. It's not straight across. And everyone from there all the way out will still have a right of way out. On the Kincaid side, there's no road. There's never been one that goes over to UPS and Parsons. I'm not asking for the back part like was opposed before. Kincaids are losing 0.2, I believe, of Highway 107. So, in that old road bed that was never a road, it goes right at the Soul Infusion building. So they're just asking for that section. Nobody has a right of way through there anyway. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, keep reading things. All right, anybody else to the The owners want to speak or anybody? Think I have anyone else signed up?
I had a couple of questions about Pathfinder.
Oh, yep, I'm sorry. I see you there.
I don't have a problem with the closure at all, as long as the other end of Pathfinder Lane remains open. Is there anybody that can block that end off? Does the town have right of way to Pathfinder Lane?
Yes, the road that's actually built will remain built.
DOT inspection.
Any other questions or comments? On the public hearing? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make the motion. Oh, all right.
Yeah, there you gotta do it.
I already done it.
You did it? Okay, sorry.
I'll make the
Natalie
motion.
did it. All right. Any more discussion from the board? No? Okay, all those in favor of closing public hearing, please. Okay, public hearing is closed. All right, time for board debate, questions, comments.
Question, Pathfinder is a town road, the part that's built, Pathfinder, is a town road or?
Nobody.
It's private, right?
Yeah, it's Pathfinder Lane is private. The easements will be deed specific. They're there for the private property owners.
Okay,
Walter Ash is a state DOT maintained road.
gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at this is that the property owner is losing some acreage on the front of the property due to the 107 expansion. So it seems to make sense to me that we be very accommodating in this case to ensure that they can continue to use that parcel and help develop. So I would be in favor of this, but vote not mine.
Consolidate it to one entrance off 107.
Yes.
Pathfinder Lane.
Anything else Steve stated in that motion? That's good. Any further discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, call for vote. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, any opposed? Not opposed. Motion carries, and that portion of street Pathfinder Lane is closed. Brings us to our next agenda item, formal presentation of the 23-24 plan.
Yes, so this will be emailed to you and posted on our website the first thing in the morning, but the total budget is the same as it was in the draft budget work session. I'm required to present this budget in a meeting prior to the formal public hearing, which we'll have at our next meeting at 5:30. So the town's general fund budget totals $5,967,489. This is an increase of $119,614 or 2% from the original 22-23 budget. This includes grants and other proceeds. This increase is attributed to making the part-time Main Street position a full-time economic development position, pre-funding post-employment benefits, supply cost increases, and general operating cost increases. This budget includes one patrol vehicle and a maintenance vehicle for Public Works. So a tax increase of 1 cent is proposed to fund a full-time economic development director position. This budget is balanced with a tax rate of 45 cents per $100 of property valuation, including ad valorem and motor vehicle taxes, and the proposed upcoming budget, 1 cent on Silva's tax rate will generate $50,700.56. The town staff recommended extending the police department's replacement schedule to 8 years during the March 23rd budget work session. This adheres to that. This budget's been reduced to meet imperative needs and utilize our revenue in the most fiscally responsible manner. Future concerns for budgeting include the Allen Street landslide and the 107 R5600 construction project. Highway 107 road construction is expected to begin in July 2025. Right-of-way acquisition and property transfers are currently underway, but these will affect tax revenue for several budget cycles. Budget shortfalls will be realized as the tax base is reduced to the start of construction. The town should expect revenue losses over the next 2 to 4 years as changes in tax values and revenues fluctuate and as acquisition dates vary. Sales tax revenue will also be negatively affected during the construction project, as the majority of the project area covers our primary commercial corridor. The degree of the impact of sales tax is unknown, therefore the town will budget conservatively for future cycles. In stating capital and grant project ordinances, we have the Allen Street Slide Capital Project Ordinance that totals $2,314,147. The Bryson Park Improvement Grant Project Fund, which is $3 million. Public Restroom Grant Project Fund, which is $390,000. And the Bridge Park Stormwater Project Fund, that is $418,000. Our governmental funds include the general fund. The budget for 23-24 is proposed $5,967,489 with the anticipation of other grants and proceeds, and our capital reserve fund. This proposed budget does not appropriate from the capital reserve fund, but money was not added to this fund during the last 3 fiscal years, mostly due to the Allen Street project. The capital reserve fund has $218,384 available. This is low when looking at upcoming capital needs. The Public Works Department needs to replace large capital in the near future, and we need to plan for this in the capital reserve fund. Also, fund balance. As of June 30th, 2022, Silva's unassigned fund balance, including subsequent year appropriations, totaled $4,662,360. Currently estimated unassigned fund balance, excluding ARPA funds, is 69.55%. The proposed draft budget appropriates $23,500 from fund balance to paint Town Hall and the Public Works Building. Additionally, $24,650 will be rolled over from committed expenditures that will not be completed at the end of the fiscal year. With the adoption of the proposed budget, the estimated available fund balance will be 68%. This adheres to Silva's financial policy that our fund balance will not fall below 40% and will meet our target fund balance goal to maintain 68% of our general operating budget. The town staff have presented you with a balanced budget that maintains our existing high-level quality services necessary to meet the board's vision and the town of Silva's mission. The preparation of this budget report would not have been possible without the dedicated efforts of the town of Silva employees and support of the members of the Silvatown Board of Commissioners. Thank you.
One question that came to mind when you were reading that. So we have to contribute to capital reserve because we couldn't have money into the Allen Street fund. But I saw on the consent agenda, I think it was the interest earned on that account that we rolled back into the fund, like $67,000 or something. Since that's maybe not technically needed in there, except for as a contingency, could we not roll that into the capital reserves instead of pushing it back into?
So not because of the SCIF grant funds, that has to be accounted for separately. At the end of the project, we could do that.
Okay. That was a surprising amount of interest. Was that for the year? Was that for the last quarter? Must have been for the whole. For this fiscal year. It was like 31,000 in one account and 37,000. Yes. Wow. Good. Well, you don't have to wait.
We're late. I'm trying to pull it up here.
That's a significant chunk of that. Okay, any other questions? From the board on that agenda item? You don't need any action on this, it's just the presentation.
$37,279 will have to be spent at Bryson Park.
Okay, because that's off the free.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay. If the other 31 is a portion of that could. go in there. Some of
Yes,
some of that's money
that could
we put in.
potentially go back into capital reserves at the end of this project, if that's what the board decides, that would make the most sense.
But we should just wait to do that at the end.
Absolutely.
All right.
Get on a surplus.
Yeah. Or get it out. So they know it's gonna look there easy. Yeah, all right. Anything else on this agenda item before we close it? All right, we'll move on to special event requests, Silver Pride. Dave, do you want to start this one with the background information?
Yes, absolutely. So the town board has always approved temporary road closure permits to send to DOT for events that stop, block, or detour traffic on state maintained roads. Last year, town staff updated the park application and the procedure for outdoor events. Staff started working on these changes in September after we had 2 increasingly large events held at Bridge Park. Well, because we had increasingly large events held at Bridge Park and lots of requests for 5K races and road closures. But the 2 events I'm referring to, during the first Pride event, a car didn't realize a parade was happening and followed closely behind the group that was walking. Then last year during Walk for Hope, a car wasn't aware the walk was happening and started to back out into their parking space on Main Street. So after that, staff realized we needed to work to make these events safer. The revised outdoor special application encourages bigger events to take place at Bridge Park due to safety constraints and also manpower. So larger events increase the need for more resources. The town staff can still approve park rentals, but the authority to close the street still rests with the board. Currently, the board approves road closure permits for Christmas parade, Bringing Up, Western's Homecoming, which WCU PD works. Veterans Day and Jackson County assists with that. And July 4th road closure is, we submit that, or we have in the past, but that's only a temporary detour during the fireworks if necessary. So Pride's application includes the parade that they've done at Main Street the last 2 years. The park rental is approved, but the board will need to vote on approving the march only. And then Pride has a great staff and they work wonderfully with the town to talk on coordinating the other events throughout the weekend. But so I gave you all a document that outlines the cost associated with planning and staffing a 2-block route versus something along the lines of a Christmas parade, just so that you have the full information of, as these continue to grow and there are more and more requests for road closures, what is involved in that.
I'll add that we don't need DOT approval for a temporary detour.
Oh, okay.
We do need DOT approval for a prolonged road closure.
Okay, so for the 2-block route, you don't need the DOT approval.
That's
Okay, all right, just need 4.
We do.
Oh, we do?
We do. We've always done that for temporary.
I'm sorry.
You're that way. No worries.
I'm sorry. I'll be quiet.
Okay, so now's the time for board discussion. And I guess really what is before the board is the resolution to close the street.
Yes, this in your agenda.
Yeah, okay, so, I'll start, is that okay? Yes. So, I just wanted to clarify for everybody that, so the word sponsor, that is the DOT's, that's the DOT's term, so that's why we use the word sponsor.
Yes.
Correct.
So the board sponsors or approves the road closure permit, saying that you will accept, that you'll staff it, you'll provide police, that you will provide cones, signage, whatever is necessary to make it safe.
Gotcha. And I was wondering if I could ask Chief Hatton just to kind of give a little rundown on like what safety things have to happen for a road closure. Put you on the spot.
That's a good question. Well, you got to pay attention to the climate in our country right now. What happens at large events, and I'm not saying that it's going to happen here, but you can't say that it's not going to happen here either. And so you got to be very, very careful about every entryway for a vehicle that can enter into a crowd. That's when we're seeing it, you see it all the time. And so, and that would be any event, but this event in particular, and there's some controversy with some people there, so you really got to be paying attention to this as well. So to say what all does it take, we have hours long as meetings to describe that. But so, yeah, it's a lot. And so that document that I saw, the document that Paige sent to you, look at the hours that it takes to put all the safety precautions in place. And, we use, for one example would be In the older days, you know, to block a road, a side road, let's say if you wanted to block Schulman Street from Main Street, you'd put a piece of crime scene tape from one light pole to the other, and there you go, you're done. That's not how it should be done today. And so now it's barricades that need to be filled with water, or it's a large vehicle that blocks the road so that no vehicle could pass through and hit our citizens. So those two routes are very, very different. If you look at that document, you'll see the 2-block route, which is the route that we've used with Pride 2 years now, is much simpler and it's much easier to make safe than the whole Main Street.
Yeah, and it sounds like, you know, and what I've seen in the past too, you kind of have game plan, like a standard way that you close this down with Jake's help and, you know, so it seems like you've kind of dialed in your setup for this type of 2-block. And how long does the road actually need to be closed? You know,
it depends. I feel like all your questions are going to say, my answer is going to be depends. It depends on which route you're talking about.
Just the 2-block route, the short one.
Not long at all. The actual parade itself takes 15, 20 minutes maybe. And so we literally can just stop traffic while the people walk through the street, and then now traffic come on through, you're good to go.
Okay.
And so it only stops there, or we route it around one street. It's really, we're not shutting down a whole street, and business people that are coming through, if they want to park and go to Lulu's, for example, to eat, they may have to make a pass, but they can come right back through, and probably the road's going to be open when they come back through the second time, and they can park wherever they want to. So when we have to block the whole street, that is not the case.
That's a whole other, yeah, but for this kind, it's a pretty short duration then.
For the 2-block route, it's
Yeah.
very short. And if you look at the time that we put for the whole street, it may seem long, but when you actually are blocking that street and having to reroute it everywhere, reroute around the whole downtown, once you get that detour in place, you have to watch. It has to run for a little while because it never fails. There's a parking lot somewhere where somebody's figured out a way to get into the traffic, you know, because they're trying to get out of here, you know. But so you have to watch it for a little while, and then same thing when it's over. If you have these barricades that are filled with water, they don't just magically unfill. You got to drain them, and then you got to get them moved, and so that stuff takes considerably more time.
And so the 2-block and the whole street those are really different, very different things. And for Pride, we're talking about the 2-block, and like we've done in the past.
Pride has used the 2-block method for 2 years now.
Great, thanks. And I just wanted to just while I'm talking already, just kind of say how much I appreciate Pride and Travis and the Pride committee for working with the town. It's been like a great loving, happy time inside the festival. It's such a great feel. I'm so excited to have this again. I'm really looking forward to it. I know we're really talking about closing the road for it, but it's just a fantastic event, and I hope to see it, grow in the future.
Thank you all. Yeah, thank you.
Any further comments from the board on this? I would say, it feels like what we're experiencing a little bit here is some growing pains. We've gone from, just a few events a year, the Christmas parade, Bring It to the Mountains, and somewhere around, I think 8 at least now. And they tend to keep coming. So, acknowledging that this does put a burden on our staff, I think we do need to start being a bit more selective on our road closures and try to push these events more towards Bridge Park and improve these more, not out of necessity because these are, community events, but be, more selective in what we close our streets for. That being said, I still would like to see this be one of the street closures. And in order to sort of help relieve that burden from staff, there's a couple of things. But one, we could probably eliminate some of the smaller street closures that we do for events and push those to Bridge Park and try to reduce our number down. But also we have, we call in people on the weekends, in this case, to work overtime hours. And yes, you get paid overtime, but it would also be nice, I think, to provide comp time for the hours that people work overtime at events on the weekend. So if you wouldn't mind looking at that from a budget standpoint or just logistics standpoint, I imagine it'd be a change to our employee handbook to have that policy in there if we wanted to, but I think it would go a long ways towards helping with, the burden it puts on people working on the weekend hour.
We can listen to that.
Anything else anyone wants to discuss?
I think it's worth a future board agenda item to maybe talk about, like, what kind of thing, the closing, what kind of events for closing street, how many, do you want to put a limit on it? And kind of look at that and see if we budget for it, how many are going to be coming up, kind of thing in the future. So just to, put that, it doesn't have to happen. But if this does start to be coming up more often, I think we should have a little bit more standardized.
Yeah, I mean, it is a staff procedure, right? I mean, you have a new procedure in place for.
Yeah, the new
these
procedure, I
events.
feel like is pretty solid.
Right.
It addresses a lot of the issues we were having. I feel that way because I wrote some of it. But I think it addresses a lot of the issues we've been having in the past.
Yeah, and I think it worked well in this case too. I mean, staff gets, get the application, you vet the events, and then they come forward for the ultimate level approval, which is required anyway by DOT, nothing changed there. And then the document you provided for estimated hours and the cost, I think is very good as a budgeting tool. In the past, we had to build organizers for those events, with the exception of the one-off event for a union, I think. So
Yes, I think the other ones we billed for have been alcohol related that wouldn't apply now because of the social district.
Okay, so, for something like the 2-block closure, which is fairly minimal, $700, I think that's worth us absorbing. I think we should probably revisit that if someone asks for a street closure. I mean, all of our street closures are town events. I mean, the Christmas parade, I guess Western's homecoming is an exception. They do a full street closure, and that's an outside entity. So I think maybe we could revisit that cost, but they also provide, county provides a lot of staffing for that one. So,
Western provides a lot of staffing for homecoming, and then the county does assist with Veterans Day. That one is a shorter parade too.
yeah. Okay, so I think we'll leave that as is though, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I would just add, if in the future you wanted us to revisit something as well, if you think it's it sounds like you have something in place for the permitting. There's something more the board needs to be involved in, let us know.
I would just say, as for Pride itself, I think Silva should be proud that Pride is an event that I think we really have a responsibility to communities outside of Silva through Pride. And that's something that we should be proud of.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the special event request with the 2-block.
I'll make that motion.
Any more discussion on that? All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
You said 2-block?
The 2-block road. list.
Yeah. Okay, so we're voting on,
That was the request.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Yep.
not the street.
okay.
Get a longer discussion. Any opposed? None? Okay, motion carries unanimously. And we will move on to our final agenda item. Community Care Liaison Grant.
So Western has received the Dogwood Health Foundation grant to make the community care liaison a full-time position at Western for 3 years, and they'll be employed by Western. So this will begin July 1st. But in the meantime, the Great Smokies Health Foundation has offered the town a $5,000 grant to cover the lapse in time from now until July 1st to fund the position as a contract employee. So the board wants to approve this grant. We can amend the budget and fund this as a contract position through July 1st. And so this is from Great Smoky Mountains Health Foundation.
Questions? Discussion?
No, that's great. The discussion would be, that's awesome.
So I'll make a motion to approve the grant and appropriate $5,000 into the contract employee line item within the
Motion's been made. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor, raise your hand. Aye. And none opposed. Carried as well. Brings us to the end. Motion to adjourn.
I will make the motion, we adjourn.
Aye.
Thank
Everybody.
you so much.